Hello again, everyone. This is Ron from Inventive Labs, and I wanted to go over some various deployment options that you have once you've finished your Voice Elements application. There's been a little bit of confusion on how it works, and the way we did this is super flexible. You can do it in so many different ways, but I thought I'd give you the concept so that we can talk about how you will deploy your application for years to come in the real world. So first of all, this is a review of kind of our architecture. So we have the Voice Elements application, and that's what you created using all of the demo code. And you probably already created your own Voice Elements application. Now, all of this client does is talks to the Voice Elements server, wherever that might be. That could be in our cloud, or it could be on your premise. It just depends where this is installed. And then the Voice Elements server handles all of the communication with various VoIP carriers or gateways or different devices that talk telephony. All of the voice over IP internet protocols are built directly into the server. You don't need anything else. It's not like some of these other products where it's built on someone else's platform, like Dialogic or something like that, or someone else's SIP stack. We have everything built in. We are the SIP stack and the API and everything you need to develop an awesome voice or SMS application. So on an inbound call, so what happens when you start your application and you create that telephony server object? You pass in an IP address, basically, of which Voice Element server you want to talk to. In the case of connecting to our cloud, you put in bank.voiceelements.com. If you had your own server, you could put in just like an IP address that's behind your firewall. And then at the same time, it passes in a username and a username and password that is verified on the Voice Element server. So when you connect, it connects to an IP address and specific port. Pass in username, password. This validates that you're allowed to connect. Then you will tell the server which phone numbers that you're interested in receiving. Okay, so once, let's say the call comes in from a PSTN carrier, some sort of VoIP carrier, what happens is it sends down an event. So this is all client-server based stuff here. It sends down an event down to your client.net application, and then you execute and usually come back and you say, I want to answer this call. So it comes up and this actually answers the call. So you would do all your play, record, speech recognition, get digits, call routing, whatever, conferencing, whatever it is, you can do that. And so the actual voice files are usually cached down here, or they can also have a reference to be on the server. But most of the time, the voice files are client based, and so they're cached down here. So this is kind of how it goes. And the outbound call is very similar. You connect, you ask for a certain channel, it gives you a channel. You do the dialing, it connects out to the VoIP carrier or wherever it's going to be, and then you kind of go through your commands. So just remember, there's three parts to this. There's the client application that always talks client server to the Voice Element server, and then that talks out to the various facilities for the actual phone call. So now the cool thing about this is this can run on the same machine as the Voice Element server, or it can run on a different machine anywhere in the world, and then connect it to, given permissions and firewall settings, it can connect to any Voice Element server. So let's look at a couple of things here. Where do I have them? Okay. Let's start with how you deploy your app into the cloud. So, like I say, you just connect up to Voice Elements, our cloud Voice Elements servers. We tell you which one we want you on, and you just put in the URL for that. And then this server can talk to any telephony network. So we have a blend of carriers that voice over IP carriers that we use, and we route depending on what you're doing. And that handles inbound, outbound, 800, SMS, all sorts of different things. Or you can use WebRTC, and you can connect up to our servers using a browser. So it's basically your browser is like a telephone for inbound and outbound calls. And there's lots of call center kind of applications that people have developed. And so that's in its simplicity if you use our cloud. And we'll charge you in our cloud. We don't have any contracts or anything, but we'll charge you by the minute. So direct DIDs in are 1 cent a minute. Outbound calls are 2 cents a minute. Toll-free calls, inbound toll-free are 3 cents a minute. So that's how, if you use our cloud, we have a rate schedule of what we're going to call you. We're kind of, in this case, kind of act like a phone company. And so this app can be installed at your any of your machines as a Windows system service or whatever. You could actually go rent some space from Azure or AWS and install your app out there. Or you can ask us if we would install your app out in our cloud. So if you didn't want to run it like at your business and you wanted to run it here, we can either install your app on a shared system where we will monitor, make sure it's well behaving, and it can be one of many voice element services running on one of our VMs where you're shared with some other apps, or we can even give you an entire VM if you want, that you can install SQL Server and everything, and then connect to our Voice Elements cloud, or you can actually install your own Voice Element server on a VM that we have. So the sky's the limit with this design. Let's go over to this one. So this is if you were to install a Voice Element server on your premise. Okay, this one basically just shows you what on the other side. So your client app's out here somewhere. So your client would connect up here in-house, and then the server can connect to a whole bunch of other things. So we can connect up to your own IP PBX. So we do that a lot in hospitals. In fact, a lot of what we do is we'll custom integrate. Someone buys Voice Element server, and we'll charge some professional services to help integrate between our Voice Element service and their IP PBX. So then all the calls will go to and from their switch. Another option, common option, of course, is you could contract with your own SIP carrier, or you could connect up to us as a SIP carrier. We'll offer SIP trunking as well from our cloud, and so you can ask for pricing on that. You could also have this thing talk to SIP phones. So like if you wanted to create your own call center, Voice Elements could actually create a custom call center that you would have all the code to. Let's say you have an analog phone line or a T1 coming out of your TDM switch. You could install a voice over IP to TDM gateway, and we've connected to lots of those over the years. It's becoming less and less. Most everyone's going to VoIP, but for smaller densities, we really like the audio codes one for analog, and for T1 gateways, the Digium one works pretty good. And then the other option is you can connect to a browser as a phone. This is using our WebRTC, our RTC technology. You can have your browser be for inbound, outbound calls, and so that's what that's good for our call centers or remote call centers, where you could have people all over the world just with a browser and a good internet connection for like a distributed call center and whatnot. All right, so that covers pretty much the premise-based, the cloud-based, our cloud, our offering for SIP trunking, for putting just one of your applications in our cloud, or getting a whole VM where you have your own voice element server. You can have your own voice element server that's in your premise connecting to your switch or to your SIP carrier. And I just wanted to make this video so it would clear up some of your deployment options. It's very flexible, and because it's so flexible, sometimes it gets very confusing, and that's why I made this video. If you have any questions, feel free to send an email to support@inventivelabs.com.